Hey everyone, it's ActuallyJebBush, and welcome to a new episode of SoRare Steals. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Brooklyn Nets, and we're going to find some cards and some players that we think are undervalued or being overlooked. If you don't have a SoRare account, make sure to click my affiliate link right here. It'll give you 20 free SoRare cards to use for the common contest where you can win limited cards and other common prizes. And if you enjoy SoRare and you want to purchase some limited moments, it'll give you a free limited moment after purchasing 5 limited moments on the live auction marketplace. But that offer applies only if you use my link. So make sure you click the link above or in the description below. Finally, if you could just take a second to click that like button and make sure you're subscribed, it's something really easy you can do that really helps the channel and allows me to continue to create content. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at some SoRare steals on the Brooklyn Nets. All right, so we're on SoRare data, and I've pulled up the Brooklyn Nets. And right away, I think we're going to start with Seth Curry here. Now, Seth Curry is currently the backup shooting guard if we look at the Brooklyn Nets depth chart, with Joe Harris being the starter. Now, this is more because Seth Curry is coming back from a major injury, and so it seems like the Nets are kind of slowly bringing him back into the lineup. But as we can see, I mean, he's averaging over 25 minutes a game here. So while his production hasn't been great, if we look at his scores, we can see he hasn't done a lot lately. He did have some 30-point games, but overall, we can see he missed some games because of injury here, a 2, a 4, a 1. Like, he hasn't done anything spectacular. But on the flip side of that, it lowers his cap. And right now, I feel like just people are not looking out for Seth Curry. No one wants him, even though he's putting up massive minutes, and he's shown in the past in his career that he can be very efficient. He's a great shooter, can put up a lot of points in a hurry. So I just feel like Seth Curry is a pretty decent buy. We can see that Seth Curry kind of started at around 20, dipped all the way down to around 4, and now is sitting at about like a little over $10, which is still not an incredible deal. But it's definitely not the worst deal if you think Seth Curry is going to be a starter sooner rather than later. Joe Harris has not been playing well. And like I said, he's coming back from an injury. I think Seth will take that starting spot and we'll get an even more bump in minutes and just getting some repetitions, being back on the court. Hopefully things smoothing out with the Nets after a crazy, insane, dysfunctional beginning of the season. That'll all help Seth Curry produce a lot more. And I think this is a card that has a high fantasy ceiling, maybe not in the short term, but like we said, we're looking long term here and the full season. And I definitely think there are moments where you can either sell Seth Curry at a high or play him off that low cap as he like really starts to turn it on and get back into rhythm. So I really like Seth Curry. I feel like he's a decent buy at like 10, but this is one that I would probably watch and just see if maybe it goes a little lower and try to scoop it at like $5 or $6. The next Brooklyn Net I want to take a look at is Yuta Watanabe. Now, Yuta Watanabe, if we take a look at some of his scores, you can see that he's had some pretty big games. And I think if you've watched these games, you can see that Yuta clearly has some capability to ball. And, with Kevin Durant and Kyrie on the floor and all the attention to them, it really opens up Yuta to shine and to get space. So I feel like he's a very, very good piece. He is currently the backup to Royce O'Neal at small forward, which once again, that kind of fits what we're looking here with the SoRare steals because he's averaging 12 minutes a game. But, if Royce gets injured, if he takes over the starting role, I don't think that'll happen. But, the Nets are a bit dysfunctional. I think once things kind of smooth out, Yuta will continue to carve a bigger role. He's really shown some flashes in the pan that he's got what it takes and he can help win games. And I think at the very least, we'll see a minute increase for him, which, that naturally will lead to more fantasy points. So if we take a look here, we can see that Yuta already, we're seeing him selling for floor, like at $1, $2 very early on. And he maybe got a little bit of a bump, and then we see this spike on November 4th. Now, November 4th is when Kyrie Irving was suspended by the Nets. And as a result, we'll see another player or two that have the spike as well. Right now, the interesting thing is he's come all the way back down and dipped around to like $4, and now he's sitting at around $12. So Yuta is kind of in that same boat as Seth Curry, where I don't know if I would rush out to get him, but we know the Nets will kind of figure things out and they won't be a complete train wreck for the entire season. Kyrie is coming back. It seems like they're starting to get their put the pieces together and get a little more chemistry and focus on basketball. I do think Yuta is a pretty important piece if the Nets want to have any chance at winning here. And it's a long season. Load management for Kevin Durant and maybe even Royce O'Neal get some load management. Who knows what's happening with Ben Simmons? Like, he might not be on the team in 2-3 months. Who knows? No one has any idea what's going to happen with that. So, when there's so much instability, having a dependable player such as Yuta coming off your bench is huge. And I definitely think he's a player that throughout the season, he will be a great plug into lineups. And there will be multiple times where we see spikes like this for him, where you can buy low and sell high. Whether that's because of off the court stuff with Kyrie and Simmons or on the court stuff, it remains to be seen. But regardless, I think Yuta Watanabe is definitely a steal that you should be watching and tracking. Okay, so next we want to take a look at Edmond Sumner. Now, if you've been watching any of the Nets games recently, you'll know that Sumner is a very capable player, very athletic, very fast, very talented. And when you're playing with someone like Kevin Durant, it's a little easier to get assists. It's a little easier to get open shots. And that's kind of reflected. So if we take a look at his most recent games, he had a bad game here, but he only played 5 minutes. So I don't think you can really use that as a data point. But we've just seen lately, as he's gotten more playing time because of Kyrie being gone, he's really responded and he's put up some solid fantasy numbers that would be optimal for a SoRare lineup for sure. So if we take a look at the price graph right here, we can see that he was trading for pretty low, like basically floor. No one knew who he was. And then all of a sudden, Kyrie gets suspended and he shoots to the moon from $2 to $30, which is like a 15x. Like, that's incredible return if you were stacking Sumners for some unknown reason. And since then, we've kind of seen him ebb and flow as his performances have been good and then one or two not so good. He's currently sitting at like $6-7, and you might be able to throw an offer and get him for $5. I feel like Sumner is a little more risky. So he's currently the backup to Kyrie Irving, which is why we saw this massive spike. But there's Patty Mills and there's an additional player, Cam Thomas, which we'll talk about next, that are kind of all in that discussion of who would take over and take a lot of those Kyrie minutes. So it's not a slam dunk that Sumner gets all of them, but still he's produced when he's been given a chance. Like I said, he's just very fast, very athletic, and he's able to create a lot of opportunities to score and get assists and all that. So for $7, not the worst pick. I think buying Sumner here would be more under the assumption that, the Nets continue to kind of be an absolute dumpster fire. Kyrie, who knows what's going to happen? This guy is the ultimate distraction. He has not been consistent since he left Cleveland. So if he continues that, which I would assume he would, there will be more opportunities for Sumner to get more minutes. And that makes him a great play for your lineup. Or if you're not using him, there's a good chance he will pump because other people will want him for their lineup. So ultimately, I think Sumner will be the most impacted by whether Kyrie's playing or not. But as a result, you can kind of, buy low once Kyrie comes back. It's been announced, but Kyrie hasn't played yet, so I wouldn't pick Sumner up right away. But once Kyrie starts playing, I would assume that his card dips even more. I don't think he dips all the way back down to $2, but like I said, even now, I think you could throw an offer of 5 and get him, and maybe in a week or 2, he's at 3 or 4. Just scooping him up for dirt cheap seems like a decent hedge to Kyrie being Kyrie. So Edmund Sumner, I think, is a great SoRare steal that you could potentially, buy and sell over and over again throughout the season. I think it'll be particularly interesting to just watch how his card performs throughout the season, as long as he doesn't get injured, because of what we talked about. And then finally, Cam Thomas is the last one we're going to take a look at. Now, in my opinion, Cam Thomas just is an extremely good young player. So he's 21. He was a rookie last year. And if we take a look at his pricing chart, we can see once again, kind of like Sumner, he's a little bit higher, just a little bit higher than Sumner. Because I think a lot of people recognized he had talent. They just didn't think he would have an important role. And then November 4th comes, and unlike Sumner, who is the direct backup, Cam Thomas takes a little bit longer to go up, but he gets all the way to $60. Not 30 like Sumner did, $60. And this is just because Cam Thomas, I think, has a much higher ceiling than Sumner, for sure. I think he is an explosive scorer, maybe not the best defender, but he can put up a very, very respectable fantasy score for a lineup. And his cap was pretty low at the time. So I think people kind of realized a little bit slowly, as we can see, that, he would be a great pick for an optimal lineup. Now, we've seen him dip all the way back down. He's now under $10. Which is pretty wild to see that massive fluctuation, because 2 to 60, it's a 30x, but 10 to like 50 is still a 5x. Like, I think once again, Cam Thomas is in the same boat as Sumner, where I think he kind of has a higher ceiling than Sumner, but there's also a bigger risk in purchasing him. One, because he's a little more expensive right now because people are excited about his performance, and two, because technically speaking, he's fourth on the depth chart for point guard, and third on the depth chart for shooting guard. So he is firmly behind multiple people that are healthy and playing and that are not having off court problems. So his minutes are not so directly impacted by someone like Kyrie. So, like I said, with Cam, I think there is a higher ceiling in terms of like price and lineup potential, but it is a much riskier play than Sumner for those same reasons. And if we really quickly just want to take a look at what he did during that time, as we can see, wasn't even like playing. And then all of a sudden, 35, 36, 29, 2 okay games, and then another 22. So, I mean, it's just very clear here that Cam Thomas has that ceiling. I think his cap when he put these two performances up was 2. So, a 34 difference, a 34-point outperformance is huge in SoRare. So, like I said, that's why we saw this just absolutely insane like moonshot, because people were like, oh, I better get Cam Thomas in my line because, he just gives me such a massive advantage over other lineups. Cam Thomas, I think, is definitely worth looking out for. This is one that, I might take a risk and go ahead and buy. I might even buy it before the Sumner, just because, like I said, it's a bigger risk, but a higher reward. And I think that's going to do it for the SoRare Steals and the Brooklyn Nets. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. And please remember to leave a like, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment if you think any of my steals were incorrect or if there's a steal that I missed. I do want to make a note that TJ Warren currently does not have any cards because he has not played the season yet. So keep that in mind, because TJ Warren for sure would be up there for me if he had some cards and they were low and no one was paying attention to them. Because, I do love a good dart throw, and I feel like he's as good as any, as long as he was cheap. But yeah, thanks again for watching. If you don't have a SoRare account, make sure to use the link in the description below. It helps both of us out. And join me next time for the next episode of SoRare Steals, where we take a look at the Charlotte Hornets. Please clap.